Alright, guys. So, this is gonna be my playthrough of Tarkov 1.0. The reason I'm talking during this video is because I failed to record the audio of Tarkov, of the gameplay. Which is my mistake, because I've been sick lately and I didn't check all my settings in OBS before recording. And I also forgot to record the tutorial on the 1.0 and the first dialogues with the traders, um, which is my bad. So I'm gonna explain it to you guys instead during this first raid of 1.0 instead. But essentially, what happens is when you open Tarkov at 1.0, you get a like a cinematic, which just essentially shows you what happens in the story leading up to the events of Escape from Tarkov. I'm gonna link the video to that cinematic because Battlestar Game actually posted that cinematic video on YouTube right before 1.0 went live. So I'm gonna link it in my description of this video so you can go and watch it for yourself. But in short, essentially what happens is, if you never played Escape from Tarkov, what essentially happens is you have Terra Group, which is an organization that essentially establishes itself in Tarkov and is doing experiments and different things. Essentially, they're kind of a shady group. And after a while, the Russian government essentially kind of doesn't like the fact that Terra Group is trying to keep everything they do a secret. Like, they don't want to tell the government what they're actually doing, the experiments and stuff. And then eventually the government is fed up with Terra Group and they decide that to hire Bears PMC, the Bear Group, which is essentially the Russian soldiers, the PMC group, to investigate Terra Group. And they're sent to Terra Group's headquarters to essentially search the headquarters building in Tarkov and report back with their findings. And Terra Group, they hire USEC PMCs, which is the equivalent or the opposite of Bears. They're just a foreign military group, sold essentially foreign soldiers, and so they station USEC soldiers at their headquarters in Tarkov, because they don't want to essentially let anybody in. And then when the Bear PMCs show up to essentially go inside the building and to make their investigation, they get denied access by the USEC PMCs, and then the USEC PMCs open fire on the Bears, and that's essentially when the conflict starts. That's when Escape from Tarkov kind of begins in terms of the conflict on the contract wars. And then when this conflict begins and there's firefights and everything happens in the cities, the Bear PMC groups essentially tries to do multiple assaults on the Terror Group's headquarters in Tarkov. And then on the final assault that they try to do, which is shown in this cinematic, what essentially happens is an EMP bomb goes off over the Terror Group headquarters, and that's essentially when Escape from Tarkov begins, the scenario that we find ourselves in the game. that's when all the electronics, everything is knocked out. And that's where the tutorial that I didn't record essentially starts. You spawn, or at least I don't know if it's completely the same if you pick bear or Usyk. If I don't know if it's completely, if it's different or exactly the same, but at least as a Usyk, which I picked, you spawn inside of the headquarters, the Terror Group headquarters, which is located on Ground Zero, which is in Tarkov and one of the maps in the game. It's called Ground Zero. And you spawn inside the building, and then you immediately learn that all electronics has been knocked out. You can't communicate with base, with, with anybody. And essentially you are supposed to um, fall back to essentially the fallback option or the emergency thing, which is to head out to essentially to Terminal, which is another map or another location in Tarkov. And that's kind of where the story begins for the playthrough for Tarkov. That's the story where it begins, is to fall back to Terminal. And then essentially just the tutorial is basically just extracting from the map from Ground Zero. That's really all there is to it. And then you do a little bit of looting, you kill some scavs, and that's just it. So the tutorial isn't really that exciting to watch anyway. But again, I didn't record it. That's my bad. And then once you get out of the tutorial, what happens is, well, for you guys who have played Tarkov before, obviously, usually at the start of wipe, you would have access to prepper, therapist, skier, mechanic, and ragman level 1 immediately. Well, at 1.0, at first you only have therapist and ragman at level 1 when you get out of the tutorial. And so when you get out of the tutorial, the first thing you're essentially told to do is to go and talk to therapist and ragman. And when you talk to therapist, she can't really help you with getting to Terminal. She's just but she does offer you a deal where you pay her 250,000 rubles for the essentially to unlock Streets of Tarkov, which is a map in the game. And that's what I did. I did pay her 250,000 rubles immediately to unlock Streets of Tarkov, which was technically kind of, you don't have to do that. It's kind of useless because there's no real reason to go Streets of Tarkov that early in the game, since you don't have any quests or anything to do there. But I did it. Then when you talk to Ragman, what he then tells you is he essentially makes a proposition to you, a deal that if you go and check out some stuff on the interchange, essentially it tells you that there's been some stuff happening in the woods outside of interchange with cars and stuff, and he just wants you to go and check it out. And in exchange, he will set you up with skier. You get access to skier, and you also get access to, and then somewhere in there you also get access to customs, which is also a map in the game. It's a location Tarkov. So that's what we're doing in this raid. Essentially what the mission actually is just to survive and extract from interchange. You don't have to do anything particular on interchange, it's just to survive and extract from the map. And that's what I did. I also forgot to record the conversation with Ragman after the extraction here, and I'm sorry about that, but I can promise you I've recorded everything after this, basically. I just didn't really think it through at the very beginning here. But essentially, just what happens is when you get out, you just tell Bragman that there was nothing on interchange, there was nothing interesting. But then a deal is a deal, and then he sets you up with Skier, and you get access to customs. And then the first conversation with Skier is kind of also just very uninteresting. He's essentially just being an asshole. But yeah, that's really all there is to it. So nothing really exciting happening yet. The main thing is just you're supposed to get to terminal. That's to extract from Tarkov. That's like the end goal, the main story of the game. And I also just want to say for this video that going forward for the other videos, I'm not gonna be showing the entire raids because otherwise this playthrough will be like 1,000 plus videos because of all the raids it take to do to play Tarkov. So there will only be like, you know, the highlights from raids. There will be a lot of editing. Because otherwise the videos will just be way too long if it's gonna show the entire raids. And also at the, you know, at the start after wipe, and you have low skill level on strength and stuff. Like you're spending 10 minutes overweight just crawling around trying to get the extract, and you guys don't need to see all that. I just mainly want to show you guys the story, or how all the quests, you know, doing the quests, and then obviously some of the firefights against the bosses and stuff, like, you know, that's kind of like, but yeah. So there will be a lot of more, there will be editing in the raids going forward. I just, for this specific raid, since there is no audio and stuff, I just thought I could take the opportunity to kind of explain where this starts, because I wasn't smart enough to record the very first part of the game, which I'm sorry about that, but essentially you also get the first couple of like quests, which we're all familiar with, which is like with Ground Zero, you get the quest from Therapist to check out the Embercom checkpoint on Ground Zero and deliver a couple of meds item from that's found in Rain. And yeah, that's just where it begins. That is all part of like what has been there for the last couple of wipes. So yeah, I won't be talking that much in all the other videos going forward. I just thought for this specific video, because of I don't have any audio on the recording, I might as well just talk over it and explain to you guys. But yeah, I highly recommend you guys check out the cinematic video, which is essentially the opener for the game, the first time you open the game. I will link the video in the description, so you go, and then you have at least some understanding of what happens leading up to when we start playing now. But also, if you have seen the Raid series that Battlestate released a few years ago, I think this is 5 episodes, I can't remember exactly, where you follow, it start off as this bear group, and then all the other guys die, and then it's just one guy left from Usyk and Bear, and then they team up, and that's kind of somewhat the story that we are following here in the actual game. It's not completely that, but there are similarities, like things that are the same. So I mean, if you've seen that, you also kind of have some understanding of what is going on right now. But yeah, that's really it for this video, and then there will be more proper like gameplay going forward in the next videos. This is just like a first video that kind of became a little bit awkward. But I promise the next few videos, from this point on, the playthrough videos will be better. So yeah, cheers, guys.
Enemy! Земляк, мы стрелять... Got a hit! Get down. Grenade. Contact! I'm out. Ладно, ну пыль!
Здорово! Ну давай, посмотрю. Че, реально в мусорках шарился? Получше ничего не было? Ладно. Нам сейчас даже это пригодится. А я все расскажу, потому что не кидала какой-нибудь. Так что слушай внимательно. Основные дороги на завод заминированы. Мои пацаны тебе передадут, как их обойти. Это наши маршруты, так что там все ровно. Недалеко от завода есть мастерская, там работает механик. Он реальный профи по пушкам. Я ему скажу, что зайдет один мутный типок, но на большее не рассчитывай. Выбесил ты меня с этими гайками.
Здравствуй, наемник. Если брать Тарков, то, скорее всего, так оно и есть. Хочешь купить хороший обвес? А зачем тебе порт? Я слышал, что он закрыт. Доверяй, но проверяй. Хороший подход. Хоть и заставляет иногда выполнять лишнюю работу. Что тебе нужно от меня? С этим я помогу. Есть тропа, о которой знает только один мой знакомый грибник. По ней ты выберешься к лесу и не встретишь проблем. С этим тебе поможет прапор. У него есть каналы снабжения из-за кордона, так что в наличии всегда есть оружие и снаряжение российского образца. По большей части примитивное, но надежное. Цену свою точно отрабатывает. Конечно. Но перед тем, как ты пойдешь дальше, у меня есть одна просьба. Здесь сложно жить иначе. Думаю, ты привыкнешь. Мне нужно проверить кое-что на заводе. Нет. В последнее время в цехах стало больше диких. Как будто кто-то собирается подмять эту территорию под себя. Я хочу выяснить, кто стоит за ними. Есть вариант попроще. Принеси мне несколько их стволов. По ним все станет понятно. Мне все равно, что с ними будет. Но без боя они тебе ничего не отдадут. Карабин КС-23 считается в России легкой артиллерией за счет калибра 23 мм. По ГОСТу все оружие, имеющее калибр больше 20, причисляется к артиллерии. Нет, сейчас не требуется. Тогда до встречи.